Hello, faithful listeners, and welcome to another Talk to Doctor. This is another of our face-to-face series where we interview people from somewhere in the world of Doctor Who. And tonight I'm joined by Chris Thompson from Eaglemoss's Hero Collector range. That's the range of figurines that we feature on the website. They've been doing them for years, and they've covered a lot of figures, including the Doctor and companions and TARDIS consoles. Welcome, Chris. We've been big fans of the Doctor Who range since the start, but I think it's fair to say the Hero Collector range isn't just Doctor Who. Is that right?
So whether it be Star Trek, Doctor Who, Marvel, DC, all of these things kind of fall under the Hero Collector umbrella. And for me, Doctor Who is particularly, a favorite and one that I love. So working on that is great. I've worked on it in various capacities in the past. And so, bringing that to Eaglemoss has been fantastic, and especially letting people know about the variety of what we do these days. Because I think a lot of people originally heard about the Doctor Who figurine collection, which had a massive launch, and we're approaching 200 issues now, which is quite a mammoth achievement, and we're not finished yet. But along the way, we've kind of introduced all these extra product lines. So there are figurine box sets that aren't included in the collection, so we're bringing out companions and Time Lords and special extras that are something a little more. There are specials, so they're slightly larger figurines. There's megas. There's a whole sort of bunch of different product lines that we've gone into, and hopefully we can touch on those over the course of this conversation.
And I believe that you've got some. It's an evolving product line, and there's even some new stuff that's kind of coming out this week.
Yeah.
Being announced this week, sorry.
That's right. Yeah, we've literally just announced that we're doing the 11th Doctor's TARDIS. Now, eagle-eyed fans will have noticed that we did actually bring that out before, really early in the collection, and it was sort of to sit there in scale to your figurines. It was incredibly popular, and it's been out of print or out of production as such for a number of years now, and so there's been a lot of calls to bring that back. But what we noticed is that there was also demand for seeing other TARDISes, and so a little bit like what we did with the Doctor's consoles, we brought out one of the sort of consoles as a special edition, again one of those unique product lines. And that went down so well that we started developing a line of those. And so we're bringing back this 11th Doctor TARDIS that we'd previously released. We called it issue 1. So the expectation is that we'll be able to bring more of those to you. And certainly when you think of various ones that have existed over time, then there's quite a lot that we could potentially do.
There's a lot of subtle, even with the same TARDIS, you get a lot of subtle variations, like the Bad Wolf or the TARDIS that had the graffiti painted on it.
Exactly. There's quite a bit of that, and it's the whether you can do the with or without St. John's Ambulance, whether you do the sort of more, I think is it purpley color of the 13th Doctors. I'm trying to remember, but there is those subtle variations where obviously the chameleon circuit kind of allows for change.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these iconic images that everyone thinks they know what it looks like, but it changes so much from Doctor to Doctor and from like decade to decade. And when you actually see them in a line, they're radically different.
Exactly.
I think the Christmas special we had a few years ago, but you had the two beside, you could actually see there was a physical difference in size as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's all of that at play. And, certainly I'm speaking out of turn now, but let's, do that. There are TARDISes that are not just the Doctors. So there's great ones like, the ones the Master has had, whether it be a column or whatever it is. So I think potentially the scope to show some of the other variations of other people's TARDIS or TARDI perhaps, would be quite nice to see. But that's just...
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's a range of them as well. I mean, like you say, you've got the kind of Masters ones, and even there was that kind of brief one with the Sixth Doctor where he did manage to kind of briefly kind of get things working. He had the church organ style. So
and yeah, I mean, I think there was the monks one as well. There's a few options.
Yeah, and they've now got that kind of classic kind of default kind of skin as well that the new series has brought in for just kind of like undisguised ones. That's another option.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of scope, and yeah, as I'd mentioned, with the consoles being a comparison, you sort of look at some of the early ones of them and you think, oh, it was much the same, but once you see them produced, they're quite different. And obviously, in the modern era, the consoles have sort of varied quite wildly, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing, but the kind of precise nature of the Eaglemoss products is if you were kind of collecting these and having them on a shelf, you'd be able to see all the little kind of tiny differences between them. I mean, the detail on the Eaglemoss stuff is very impressive.
And it's nice to be able to set up just little sort of scenarios of them, I guess. You can create your own little thing of the Doctors around their, console or next to their particular TARDIS. And that's a lot of fun. Like we did that with we brought out the first Doctor's TARDIS, console, and we brought out a figurine set of the first Doctor with his companions. And then for both of them, we did black and white variants that you could also get. So if you wanted it, the way that we've all actually watched it in black and white, then you can have that. And so you had either your figurines around your black and white console or your figurines around your full color one, which I love. I mean, personally, I could have gone for both. I opted for the black and white set, but they're amazing.
Yeah, it's nice having that option there, and it's like the good thing with figurines is just kind of getting the chance to do something kind of almost kind of quirky like that.
Exactly. I mean, we've even looked at, and I think you'll probably see some evidence of this down the line, but with the animations that are happening now for missing episodes, we're sort of looking at doing some of those and bringing those to life as figurines, because there's some great redesigns or at least interpretations that have been done for the animation. So it's nice to kind of give that its moment to shine as well.
Mm-hmm. The Doctor Who range, I mean, like you say, there's about 200 kind of like, it's kind of coming up in kind of 200 things now. What's been the most kind of popular kind of things that you've done with the range?
Oh, God. Interestingly enough, I mean, obviously it started huge. And so, beginning, I think it was with the 11th Doctor himself, which is why we've done his TARDIS early on. That was massive. But what I've found is that as we get further into the collection, it's actually the more obscure things that have done really well and get people really excited. So it's when you bring up these sort of, early monsters and finally bring those to life that have been going down really well. So there are certain things, from perhaps later in the collection, but from earlier Doctors runs that are incredibly rare now, and sort of highly sought after. There's a few little bits and pieces that I can't get myself, but I think the monsters are something that we've done really well and that have gone down really well and continue to. And especially some of the ones that we've done as specials, so slightly oversized ones. So we've done things like, bringing to life one of the Crotons. We've done one of the War Machines, one of the Mechanoids. Things like that are really cool and seem to be quite popular. I think there's the same appetite and audience, as me and all of us out there.
I mean, there's something about having one of these kind of in your hands. I mean, it really kind of takes you back to your childhood and kind of watching the show. There's kind of magic in them. It's kind of hard to describe.
When you think of, there are other people that produce figures and figurines of Doctor Who, but generally, when you look at the breadth of their range, it's nowhere near sort of 200 different figures. So naturally, they don't get these more obscure options. You get various versions of the Doctors and certain key villains or monsters, but otherwise it's just those core ones over and over again. Whereas in trying to make sure that each of our 200 plus is different, we certainly get to some unique and very, very obscure things. So whether it be the gel guard or there's so many options for what we can do there. And yeah, we've already extended the collection beyond 200, so there's going to be at least 220 of them. But there's opportunity to do so much more if the audience is still there for it.
I mean, you guys got involved with the Time Lord Victorious and produced some figures for that, didn't you?
Yeah. And that one was quite interesting because prior to being at Eaglemoss, I was with Titan Comics. And so we used to, well, they still do, but, I used to be there working on the Doctor Who comics. And so that was a big part of what we did. And for years, during that whole time, the BBC had been talking about this sort of cross-licensee project of Time Lord Victorious, where essentially it was meant to be at that point, it didn't actually have a name even. It was just the Transmedia Project or something. But the idea was to bring together all your licensees who had some sort of narrative quality. So, BBC Books, Big Finish, Titan Comics, etc., and just to tell one giant news story across those, media. And so when I came across to Eaglemoss, it still hadn't taken off, but they were still having those discussions. And I was like, hey, is there some way that we could get involved in this? Because I thought it would be amazing to really bring those characters and situations to life in some sort of physical form. And that was something that we were capable of doing. And so it all had to come together incredibly quick, because at that stage I knew it was sort of quite advanced, but we got on board. For us, it kind of takes a minimum of 9 months to create a new figurine from concept to, final product. And that's at bare minimum. Usually we're allowing at least a year plus. And so with this, we were very much right at that sort of deadline. But we were able to produce some Daleks to begin with. There was the great Emperor Dalek, and I think it was the Dalek drone in the first pack. And so our experience with working on Daleks made that one a little bit easier and quicker. And then it wouldn't be until the final set, which is yet to come out, that we would be getting to the human characters. So that was amazing. But what I wanted to see was if we could also contribute to the narrative somehow. And so we asked about that, and very fortunately, James Goss, who was overseeing the whole Time Lord Victorious project, contributed short stories that were exclusive to the magazines that accompanied our figurines. So we not only got to bring other people's stories to life, but we got to have stories of our own. So yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Oh, that's really cool. How does the kind of sculpting work with the figurines? Is it scanning, or is it kind of very much a kind of manual process, or a combination? Or
it's a little bit of both, but it does start obviously with 3D renders and designs, and that's primarily where it kicks off. And so eventually those are used for kind of creating the samples and stuff. And so you'll originally get just gray unpainted samples to see if they're shaped right, if they're showing up correctly, all the lumps and bumps and different things are in the right place and nothing is wrong. And then we advance those to going with painted samples. But essentially they just start as sort of basic 3D renders and move up from there. And that's why it's such an involved process, because at each stage you're obviously needing to go through a level of approval as well, and people making sure that it's fine, which is even more complex when you get to actual people, and perhaps some of those people have a say in how they're rendered and brought to life.
But was that made more difficult over the last year, or is it something that was always done kind of remotely, or just with the situation?
It's not really made it any more difficult. It's just changed where things are being sent to, essentially, with the case of samples. So, I think it's been a nightmare for our poor editors of the collection who, instead of having things sent to the office, which was a bit more expansive with room to store things. And I say that knowing full well that we'd pretty much used up all our storage. So actually it was a bit of a nightmare there. But certainly it doesn't compare to having all these samples, being mailed to your own house, and then poor editors having to sort of keep and catalog these things in their own house and find room for what is essentially an archive of figurines that they didn't previously have to manage at home. But outside of that, it hasn't really changed anything. It's just changed where the samples are being sent.
The scale for the models, that's kind of 1/21, isn't it?
That's right. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Is that a standard one, or is that slightly different? I've seen lots of different models, but I've never quite understood why certain things kind of pick certain scales.
Now, I mean, that's an interesting question, because as to why we ended up at that scale to begin with, I couldn't tell you exactly. I have a feeling it's probably more to do with how they were originally coming out as a part work subscription format that needed to sort of fit both something that could be posted out, but also racked at certain retailers, especially I'm thinking of the newsagents and kiosks. But with certain other products we've done since, the scales are sort of wildly different. So we've got some figurines that are 1/18 scale, some 1/16. There's quite large ones that are 1/8. But for whatever reason, the Doctor Who line ended up on the 1/21 scale. And so we've kept up with that and certainly tried to make sure that anything we produce, even around the collection, is complementary to that scale.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best things, the kind of consistency as well. I mean, anything you get has got to kind of blend in. I mean, that's one of the frustrations you sometimes get collecting, is that something changes and things just don't quite kind of look right.
Exactly. When you think about, the changes in, say, the Doctor Who logo over time and how that looks on your book spines or your DVDs or whatever, these are the things that bug a lot of us, myself included. So at least, with the figurines, we've been able to sort of keep that scale and not go, well, hey, now we can change to 1/16, so let's just make these bigger from this point.
The Doctor Who range, that's a kind of important one for you, but you've kind of alluded that you've actually got quite a lot of kind of ranges now. Do you want to kind of take us through some of the ones, because there's some really big names there?
Well, outside of Doctor Who, the other brands?
Outside of Doctor Who, yeah.
So Star Trek is probably the biggest other one for us right off the bat. Like, we were sort of, if you think of the wilderness years of Doctor Who, where you had like the Virgin New Adventures and things like that were sort of the standard bearers during that time where there was nothing else. Even Big Finish when they started, we were largely that for a period of time with Star Trek. So before they had Discovery and Picard and all this new sort of range of shows, and you'd had the Enterprise series finish, quite a number of years ago. All through that time, we were bringing out ships. So we're quite well established in that space. So instead of doing figurines in that area, we actually create starships. And so we have two sizes with those. They're not a consistent scale in the terms of going, they're all, this is 1/21 or whatever, because ships, unlike people and creatures, seem to wildly vary in size. So we've gone for more of our own standardized version. So we have the sort of classic smaller size ships. And then we have what I think we're sort of more calling the standard size now, which is a slightly larger one that we were doing for Discovery and newer ships like the Picard series. So outside of them, we also do a lot with Marvel. So for Marvel, we particularly the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we have a figurine collection with them that is brought to life and is getting close to the levels of Doctor Who, actually. So there's a huge amount of Marvel Cinematic Universe figurines to collect that really get into the minutiae and the obscure stuff, as well as we're bringing in a couple of new lines there. So we've got Marvel Heavyweights, which are sort of figurines but made out of an actual cast metal. So they are literally heavyweight, that you hold them in the palm of your hand, and they've got quite a lot of heft to them. And then the interesting one we just announced is the Marvel Museum. So bringing to life artifacts and relics from the film. So things like Captain America's shield, on a nice display stand. Iron Man's helmet that sits there. There's going to be the Infinity Gauntlet, of course. So bringing together these, and again, rather than being a particular scale, they're all sort of in scale to one another, with the idea that they would fit sort of nicely along a bookshelf or on your desktop. You know, because so many of us are working from home now, and for a lot that will continue as the norm. So you need to decorate the space around you with the things you love.
Yeah, no, it's these kind of things. Just even like one or two of them, just being able to kind of dot around the room,
Exactly.
and just kind of highlight. I mean, especially some of the more colourful ones.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm sure we all love our jobs, of course, and that's exactly what we're going to say. But, you know, if you're having a day where perhaps you don't, then maybe it's nice to just look across to the side or behind you and see something that you do love, and that reminds you of, you know, what comforts you when, you know, the workday ends and you're off the clock. Really quickly, I should just rattle off a bunch of other brands because there's so many. But we do Battlestar Galactica, Rick and Morty, Sonic the Hedgehog. We're doing stuff with Bethesda, the gaming brand, which is sort of yet to be announced and to come. We're doing stuff on The Expanse. God, there's so much I'm forgetting at the moment. But with DC Comics, between the graphic novels and figurine stuff, there really is so much. So there's very little of pop culture that we kind of haven't touched on and aren't actively doing at the moment.
Are you still doing stuff with the Harry Potter range?
Yes. See, there we go. Harry Potter and the Wizarding World, WWE. Yeah, so those are all ongoing concerns for us. And yes, certainly, again, there's been a great collection of Wizarding World figurines, and there's some interesting new sort of product lines and things we're moving into with them. Like we've introduced Harry Potter knitting kits, and you know, I've discovered that the knitting community is full of geeks, and vice versa. The geek community is full of knitters. And so, you know, whether you want to knit your own house scarf, so, you know, you want to be like, I'm a proud Ravenclaw, here's my scarf, or some nice slouch socks, or a Hogwarts Express kind of draft excluder. We've made all of these things possible. And again, it kind of demonstrates moving out of what are our traditional things, because people are like, okay, you make spaceships or you make figurines. But it's like, well, actually, no, we do T-shirts, we do mugs, we do prints, we do knitting kits, we do baking sets, we do so many different things now.
I mean, you've got potential there, I guess, to also kind of move into Doctor Who with the knitwear with scarves. That's something that's quite a bit of history in the show.
Yeah, well, and Doctor Who is the one where we've just introduced baking sets. And so we will introduce that with other licenses, and you'll sort of see where that will be relevant to certain ones of those. But we've brought it in for Doctor Who, so you can make cookie sets with, you know, Daleks and TARDISes and things like that. That's literally just landed in our e-commerce shop. And I guess in talking about the other product lines we do, certain things go to retail and people will see them there, and certain things are subscriptions, but there's so much that appears on our own e-commerce website. So if you go to shop.eaglemoss.com, it kind of opens up everything we do. So all our lines are available there. So that includes these new Doctor Who baking kits, which have just appeared. It would be amazing to obviously get to some knitwear with that as well, even though I have to say on the sort of, you know, at least the pre-made scarf side, you've got, I think it's Lavazzi they're called, you know, make some incredible stuff. So, you know, I would be loath to kind of compete with that as such. But we're doing, you know, incredible lines. Like, I don't know if you can sort of see it here, but we've been doing T-shirts, which are what we call the Episodic Collection. And so essentially it's about getting different artists and designers, like world-class ones, people that you know from other areas, to bring to life a particular episode or storyline in the form of a single image. And so those are available as T-shirts. We release a different one every month, but we've also expanded into doing them as really sort of high-end, really limited-run G-clay prints, as well as we've produced a handful of them as mugs. And so the one I'm wearing today is a really nice one for Earthshock. But we've done, there's an incredible one for Blink, kind of done as this pulp novel cover by an artist called Robert Hack, who does that sort of style. But if anyone's seen the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina series, he was sort of the guy who did all the design work for that, and essentially the inspiration in the form of the original comics that they drew on heavily for that. And so his art style is amazing. But we've brought in such varied people. We've brought in sort of, well-known designers like Ryan Hughes to do things for us. And I think it's just shown a different aspect to what we do. So essentially, if you like what we do and love Doctor Who, you can wear the T-shirt, have the figurine, drink from the mug, put the print on your wall, bake your cookies while you're doing all of this, to have with your coffee. Yeah, it's quite a lot.
I mean, it's an impressive kind of range. I mean, I'd been kind of a bit out of touch for it, and I knew that the kind of figures quite well. But when looking into kind of things last night, I was kind of stunned by just how wide a range it was. I mean, I didn't realise you guys did the Battlestar Galactica stuff, and that's something that's of interest to me that I'll be kind of checking out later.
Yeah. Well, and I guess as well for people that like Doctor Who and classic sci-fi, we've also just announced we're doing some ships from Space 1999. So we're bringing the Eagle transporter to life. But if you're familiar with the show and the ship, you know that there's sort of multiple variants of that as well based on its purpose, its usage. So we're actually bringing those to life as well. So you'll see different versions of the Eagle. And certainly this opens the, I don't want to say Pandora's box because that's negative. This opens the wonderful scope of the worlds of Jerry and Sylvia Anderson. So to bring that stuff to life and maybe to delve into other parts of their back catalogue would be amazing. But starting off with the Eagle feels right to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very iconic ship. So there's just something about that that's just, you see that and it really kind of jumps out at you.
Yeah. And I think it's been the inspiration for so many designers, shipbuilders and production designers ever since. So, it's a natural to bring that one to life.
Are there any kind of licenses that you'd love to have that you might chase after in the future?
Oh, see, this is the stuff where I can never properly answer on the record because it's like
something could be in progress.
I can always say fanciful stuff. That it's a little bit difficult to answer that one, but certainly, if I think of something like Bethesda, which is a gaming, company.
The Fallout games and Skyrim. Yeah.
Exactly. So Fallout and the Elder Scrolls games, I love dearly. So much. The Fallout series is easily my favorite. So, of course, that was one I was asking about from the moment I was there at the company. And obviously it was one they were working on. And so to have that come in is super exciting. And, when you say you're doing Bethesda, it's obvious that you're going to do Fallout. It's obviously you're going to do Elder Scrolls. So I'm not giving anything away there. But, stuff like that is incredible. And I think as well, I mean, it's when you think of the license holders and the licensors we deal with, there are other properties they have which it might be natural for us to gravitate across to. Like I'd said with Space 1999, it kind of opens up, do you go to Thunderbird? Do you go to Captain Scarlet? All of these things are potential options. And I think a lot of it depends on how this stuff kind of performs at the moment. So if enough people buy the Eagles, hint, hint, then, the more likely we are to be able to see these other things. And I think as much as, Thunderbird 1 and 2 and the various Thunderbirds have been made over and over again, I think how we do it and what we bring is unique enough that I personally would love to see our versions. That's not to say that's happening, that's just me.
Has there been any of the ranges that have surprised you by how successful they are, especially for something that's maybe a bit older? I mean, when you mentioned Battlestar Galactica, that surprised everyone. I think
people had underestimated the demand for that, and both in terms of the classic and the new series versions. So there was almost equal demand and sort of equivalent demand for both, but people were incredibly supportive, and it sort of showed us that actually going after some of these niche things was feasible for us as a company. So it didn't just have to be, okay, Star Trek, which is so evergreen, and so ubiquitous. You could go, right, we're going to do, Battlestar Galactica. We're going to do Space 1999. We're going to go with The Expanse, which, certainly has a very rabid following, but in some ways is still incredibly niche. So there's Battlestar was a big eye-opener for us. And then there are certain things where you kind of imagine they're going to be much bigger and, they have a decent following, but they're not as massive as you would expect. So it's sort of funny to see what niche products outsell things that you would expect are full-blown mainstream. And even within, say, coming back to the Doctor Who range, if I think of something like the console collection, the incredible popularity of that and the fact that we've sold through production runs of that and had to go back to production is in some ways a surprise to us, because you go, all right, well, we know that someone wants to own their version of Peter Davison as the Doctor, but do they want to own his TARDIS console as it appeared in the Five Doctors? Apparently they do, and that's great. So I think within particular lines, and even we bring out these Doctor Who companion sets where we're able to do, say, different versions of the Doctor, but to bring to life companions we hadn't seen before. And certainly it shows the love for particular companions, that they're happy just to see them brought to life. But that's sort of sparked off where we've been able to do things like Time Lord sets. So we've done 2-packs. We bring to life the different Time Lords. And so whether that be, different versions of Rassilon or Missy or whatever it is, we've been able to do interesting characters there that we couldn't do in other series, even down to we did one set with the Meddling Monk and the Eric Roberts Master in it, which was just super cool to bring them about. And that's its own little set. So even within the brands, there's kind of obscure things that I'm amazed we can do, are more popular than we expected, but probably as popular as we hoped they would be.
Are you kind of limited to just the stuff that's on the kind of TV show? Or, I mean, Doctor Who's obviously kind of got a range of kind of books and all that kind of spin-off media. Or is any of that potentially open to you?
There is, and I mean, we've done a bit of that actually. So we've got 2 of our companion sets that are actually based around the Big Finish range. And so we've done 2 8th Doctor sets. So there's one with him and Lucy Miller and a Dalek. And then there's another one with the 8th Doctor in his sort of more modern, incarnation and garb with Livchenko and a Dalek. And so we've done a bit of that. Book-wise, I'm just trying to think. I don't know whether there's anything particular for that we've done yet with the Doctor Who range. I know, for example, on Star Trek we have. So there's things like the USS Titan, which was Riker's ship that he sort of took command of after the Enterprise. And that's been in a series of novels. And actually, we had a lovely giveaway at New York Comic Con back when you could do such things in the what feels like now the distant past. But the author of the Titan book series actually gave us some copies of his books, signed them, and they were like a giveaway when people were buying the ship to go with it. So there's been a bit of that we've done, and certainly we're open to doing more. It's a shame in some ways that I can't talk about the near misses as well, because there were a couple of things that have been seen in other media and for Doctor Who that got this close, and it's like, but sometimes it's just not always possible.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, sometimes these things might kind of come again. It's maybe just not the time just yet.
Well, that's also true. That is also true. So there's certain discussions that get revisited, and there's other things that just sort of get nipped in the bud. obviously you've then got things like the Peter Cushing Doctor Who, films, which exist as kind of an entirely separate license and license holder. So it's not so easy to just go, well, you do Doctor Who, you can do that as well, which is always a bit of a shame. But yeah, there will be those sort of restrictions that are beyond us.
The with the Star Trek, have you guys got any plans to do anything with the Lower Deck cartoon, just to kind of go something a kind of bit different, or would that be a bit too awkward? Or?
So I guess we have not officially announced this yet, but Ben Robinson, who's the head of Hero Collector and my boss, did let that drop in one of the Star Trek podcasts that we would do something, which I think is not a big surprise, in that considering we do all other Trek, it would be conspicuous by its omission. But yes, I think it's safe for me to say that we will be doing something along those lines, and we're almost at a stage where we can announce what that will be. But if you look at what we are traditionally known for making Star Trek wise, that would probably be a clue as to what you would expect we do for Lower Deck.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested to see what kind of comes out there. That was wasn't something I knew you'd be able to do, so it's something I'll be kind of keeping an eye out for. Yeah.
Yes, no, absolutely, and obviously, again, that's one of those kind of things where you just don't know how popular and how big it's going to be, but everyone's really responded well to Lower Decks, and it's taken off. So I think either way, we would have wanted to do something, but the support is more than there for it.
What are there any kind of plans for Eaglemoss as a kind of company in terms of things that they've got to do that you'd be able to talk about? I appreciate anything with kind of licenses is kind of probably off the table, but just in terms of, are they planning to kind of sell things in a different way? Or you kind of mentioned that the shops become quite a big focus now.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's one of the things that, externally people aren't always aware of. So I think Eaglemoss, and particularly when we refer to it as Eaglemoss, which is traditionally how it was known, it's always viewed as that company that was and started as a partworks company, which is a very British European thing. And now that we're quite global, it's a little confusing, I guess, to people externally, but it's also introducing them to that concept and who we are today. So the partworks idea was always that, you can get your first few parts at the newsagent or kiosk, near you, and then you would subscribe and we would fulfill directly. And occasionally there were certain newsagents that would keep getting parts in for people. And that was the traditional thing. And that was all we did. And off the back of that, we sort of realized that there were people that were missing issues, whether it be that they wanted to get a second version of that Cyberman or another version of that Enterprise, or they broke their previous one, or their newsagent didn't get it. We realized there was a need for back issues, essentially. And so we started off our e-commerce site, so the shop.eaglemoss.com, primarily just to fulfill those orders. So the idea was, are you missing anything, or did you just hop on board now? You can catch up from this point and get the ones you missed or need again. And so eventually that expanded into, well, hey, hang on, there's a lot of people coming here. Why don't we offer more product there? So we created a lot more. And we also found that, it was a lot easier with certain things to get the license to sell things, say, directly, as opposed to going out to mass retail where you might actually be competing against another license holder where the product is deemed to be a similar category. And so then we expanded our range to be more into retail. And so, you see things like, if you think of the Doctor Who figurine collection, they used to just come in a bag with magazine and the figurine on the front. And so we've expanded to essentially having more retail-friendly packaging for all of our lines. So things are boxed, with a nice sort of open window for all the new things, like the Doctor Who companion sets, the Time Lord sets, things like that. So they're all quite retail friendly. So you have essentially these three different channels. So whether you want a traditional subscription for certain lines, we still have that. For e-commerce, you can come to us direct, and everything we do is available there. And then at retail, we, sort of work a lot with specialty retail and select partners We've just got our first sort of massive amount of stuff into Walmart in the US, which is incredible. And I think certainly, with the fact that we've promoted the Hero Collector brand and the name to encompass what we do, because Eaglemoss is an interesting and funny sort of name, but doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't tell you what we do. Where I feel like Hero Collector is a little bit more like, okay, I get a concept of who these people are. And so in promoting that, we've kind of found that that's also opened doors. So there's a lot more places that want to take us, retailers up. So yeah, I guess we have expanded across these 3 distinct platforms. So, ideally more and more I want it to be that you can't go anywhere without tripping over the name Hero Collector and seeing our products in some capacity.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely very kind of ubiquitous kind of online. I mean, it's a really well kind of, as soon as you get into any kind of fandom where you guys are kind of selling to it, they are very, very well known. I mean, I think that especially for Doctor Who, the appeal of being able to kind of like create the various different like kind of dioramas for your shelf and be able to change it around, it's something enormously appealing to us fans.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love doing it myself, changing up my own home display and stuff like that. So where I'm actually in a different room of the house today, so I'm not normally where I'm sort of sat working. But sometimes when I'll be doing these kind of interviews, I'll show off whichever, setup I've got at that point in time. So, yeah, it's just kind of nice to have that. So in the same way as people go, well, yeah, I love doing this, I wonder how much they're into it. The answer is very much so. And yes, I have the setup myself. My current favorite set is the third Doctor companion set we brought out.
Yeah.
Which so that's the third Doctor, the Brigadier, Joe, and Sergeant Benton. And since my Blu-ray set of season 8 arrived, let me see, was it last week or the week before? But anyway, I've been slowly working my way through that, and I've got my figurines set up under the TV, and it's just nice to do all that.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we saw a lot online, was when people were like showcasing the Blu-ray sets that they've got. They often had the figures or kind of TARDIS kind of things in the background. That's something that, rather than just say, I've got the DVDs, they were making a kind of a much bigger thing. And it's great to see something from the 70s that still has so much love and so much kind of affection.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's so much. It's just crazy. It's like, yeah, we see it all the time. And every time we announce something new and obscure, people, get excited. Like for me, I'm super glad we're bringing out the next companion set, which is due in April, is the 5th Doctor one. And there was sort of some deliberation as to which companion lineup we were going to do with that. And I was glad to see that it was my preferred one, which again, it's like, I want to see them all at some point. So it's not that I want anyone excluded, but it's like, okay, if we're just going to have one at the moment. And so we ended up with sort of the classic Tegan, Nyssa, Adric combo. And I get it. People have mixed opinions on Adric, but I was glad to have that one in there. And because we'd already brought out a couple of versions of the 5th Doctor, what we did this time around was we did it so it was right at the regeneration at the end of Logopolis. So you actually have him in Tom Baker's outfit. So he's still in sort of maroon, look that was created for him then, which, I love. And certainly seeing Peter in that, considering it was such a short time that you got to see that, having it as a figurine, really lovely. Yeah.
No, I mean, that'll be a really nice set. That's what I'm kind of looking forward to seeing.
Yeah. And he's also my Doctor, so anything, 5th Doctor gets me excited.
Yeah, I came in just right at the tail end of Tom Baker. So, I mean, I think I caught about 2 episodes of him when I was about like 4 or 5, and Peter Davison was pretty much my Doctor. I mean, it's like he kind of dominated the early kind of years of watching the show and really getting into it.
Exactly. Yeah, same for me. I was right on the end of Tom's run, but it was like when it clicked for me was with Peter.
Yeah, I mean, I know Adric's maybe not everyone's kind of favourite, but that kind of initial kind of team with the 5th Doctor, there was just something about them. They gelled so well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, even down to when they didn't gel, the level of banter there was just right. There was enough variety in the personalities. Like they sort of,
Mhm.
when you have too many companions in the TARDIS these days, there's a lot of complaints about it and so on and so forth, which I understand. But when I think back to that era, I never felt like
Mhm.
there was too many people. I felt like there was a good balance of the type of people and the way they bounced off one another. It was perhaps lightning in a
Mhm.
bottle.
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing that they weren't afraid of. Them was just kind of having a little bit of kind of tension, a little bit of conflict, and
Mm, mm. And I think it did well for it. It was
Mhm.
and it was always good natured. Even when they were getting annoyed at one another, there was never like a bullying going on. There was none of that. It was
Mhm.
just very much the tensions of people living together like family in an
Mhm.
enclosed space. As much as the TARDIS is bigger on the inside, the reality of them constantly going on all these adventures meant they were just under one another's feet all the time. So, it's surprising there's not more conflict.
Yeah, that's definitely. I think everyone can relate to at the moment, unfortunately.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh God, we all wish our houses were bigger on the inside about now.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of covered pretty much everything I've got. I mean, that was a really kind of. It's amazing just how much you guys are kind of doing, and with the kind of hero collection, it's kind of it opened my eyes to it. I mean, I'm certainly going to go and be checking out the Battlestar Galactica stuff. That's
Yeah,
something I've loved as a kind of since I was a kid.
yeah. I guess I hope for this first time talking to you guys and being on the show to actually give that general overview to try and give a sense of the scope of what we do and how much bigger it is than what
Mhm.
people may have originally thought. Because I still think like even we have monthly ads in Doctor Who magazine now. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's opened the eyes of the readers to the fact that, hey, we're not just the figurine collection people anymore. There's
Yeah.
just so much there. And I would encourage people to go online, not just because I'm a massive pimp and going buy our stuff, but
Mhm.
if you check out shop.eaglemoss.com, have a look under just everything Doctor Who there. It's incredible. And then, yeah,
Mhm.
if you want to look at more, then, like a TARDIS, it's bigger on the inside. There is a lot there. There are all these other brands. But even if you
Mhm.
want to just go for Doctor Who, there is so much there. I mean, there's more
Yeah.
than I could personally own,
Mhm.
that's there. So, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we've showcased it a lot of it over the years, and it's amazing stuff. And like
Yeah.
you say, it's the sort of thing that it combines so well in so many different ways. I mean, you can either can go for a classic thing where you can recreate something that happened, or you can get into the realms of what if and have like lots of different combinations.
Exactly, exactly, and the fact that it's still ongoing is you know fantastic. I love the fact that it's continuing, and I'm glad for the support because particularly on
Mhm.
the sort of main collection run, the fact that we get to 200 and there's enough support to go to 220. We're now looking at
Mhm.
220. I really hope that we've still got the people there to go 240, 250.
Mhm.
Because there are still figurines that I'm constantly saying like, "Hey, can we do this one? Can we do that?"
Yeah.
And people get sick of me, but at least if there's more of us, then yeah, it'll continue.
Yeah. I mean, that's the good thing about the show is it is still going. I mean, it's kind of coming up on its 60th, and it shows no sign of kind of going anyplace.
Exactly. Yeah. If I can fit in one last plug, I guess. An
Mhm.
interesting thing that came up from me and actually the brand manager for Doctor Who talking about what we could do to draw attention to all the great stuff we're doing was
Mhm.
we looked at being able to do more current and kind of things happening as they were transmitting. And so
Mhm.
for Revolution of the Daleks, the festive special, we were able to get out a pin badge set that dropped at the same time as transmission, and we were able to
Mhm.
announce a figurine set that's about to come out sort of late April, early May now. And
Mhm.
so that was one of those things where we were able to work a little bit ahead with the production team and try to turn something around quickly. And I
Mhm.
guess this is a slight little giveaway or scoop without saying too much, but that opened doors for us with the production team that we could then talk about working further ahead and perhaps producing more stuff that was coming down the pipeline. so that perhaps we could tee up other things to drop around the time of transmission as well. So I think if you look ahead to when the next series comes and what we're producing at the time, you might see some more current things, and that certainly, as you've said, expands the scope of the collection and the series. So, if anything, it gives us more possibilities for what to create.
Well, that's good to know. That's something to kind of keep our eyes peeled for and stay excited for.
Exactly.
And
yes.
it would definitely be good to get you back on the show in the kind of coming months to kind of talk about that once you get to the stage where it's able to be revealed and have a look at that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And if you guys are ever doing, deep dives into particular storylines or story arcs or seasons, I'd love to do any of that. Just general nerding out about Doctor Who is kind of good with me. And certainly happy to do that for our product. I'm sure that for every storyline we have, produced multiple figurines that tie in, so I can plug all of those. But even to talk about that or things that happen into the comics, I'd be happy to do that anytime.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something we're planning to do a bit more of this year. Just I think the Blu-rays seems to have kind of rekindled a lot of interest in the show and a lot of kind of love for the show that I think had got a little bit kind of stagnant maybe. And this last year, especially with BritBox and people being able to kind of go back and rewatch things and having a bit more time possibly, I think fandom just seems to be a lot more energized just now than it has been in a long time, and that will hopefully translate into a kind of strong viewing figures for season 13 when it comes, and a lot of excitement for it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they're making me buy it all over again, which is crazy. I moved to the UK from Australia in 2007, and up till I left, I bought every single Doctor Who DVD, and they were all sitting in storage in Australia. And I wasn't going to be able to get to them anytime soon. So every time there was a sale on the DVDs happening, I slowly started buying them all. And before I knew it, I had everything again in the UK, plus obviously everything new that came. So I have a full collection of the DVDs here. I have everything up to 2007 in a storage shed in Australia. And now I'm buying the Blu-rays as well. They're really, milking me quite well here.
Yeah, I think if you include the VHS as well, I think apart from Star Wars, maybe there can't be many kind of ranges where people have got so many versions of the same things and still being happy about it, because every time you got new features on it or the quality's better. There's just always just something slightly different.
Oh yeah, there's always one extra thing to suck you back in. It's like, oh, we brought these extra features on, and let's face it, with the Doctor Who DVDs, I mean, they were always great, and it was cool to revisit the shows, but I got all over those, special features and the commentaries. They were amazing. And so anytime you angle that carrot of here's some new special features, it's just like, okay, I'm all in, you got me. You had me at hello. Yeah.
It's amazing just how many times you can watch something and still learn something new when you listen to some of the commentaries sometimes. It's just amazing the level of detail and thought and passion and the things that go into these episodes.
Exactly. Plus, it's always fun to guess how many drinks they must have had before, after, or during that session. There's a few you listen to and you're like, okay, they must be drinking as they go. This sounds like a Who.
Yeah, so those are the best ones, because usually by the end, the pretense of trying to kind of keep anything secret just goes out the window, and that's when you get the best little kind of nuggets of kind of gossip. Yeah.
Well, and you think of it in that light, and it's like, God, how much ended up on the the cutting room floor from the commentaries? I would love to know.
Yeah, I think we experimented in the past with doing something like that, so I think that might be something that we have a play around with again. It's might be up your street sometime in the future.
Oh yeah, I mean, that'd be great. They've done some excellent stuff like that with Phantom films. They've got their Who Talk range of well, they're not DVDs, I guess they're CDs, but yeah, they've sort of put together alternate commentaries to things, and then there's I don't know if you guys have been picking them up, but there's the Cutaway Universe comics that are happening where they're doing Lytton, and there's an Omega one coming up and things like that. And with each issue of those that you get a VAM, value-added material disc, which contains sort of extra commentaries. And yeah, as I said, I kind of can't get enough of those, but actually participating in one would be a lot of fun, I think.
we'll definitely give you a shout when we get round to that. And again, with season 13 kind of coming up, it'd be definitely kind of good to get you back to once you're in a position you can kind of talk about some of the things that are kind of coming up. That would be good too.
Absolutely, yes, yeah, that would be great. And I'd love to do that.
Well, thanks very much for coming on the show, Chris. It's been a pleasure, and it's been really enjoyable. There's been a lot of I thought I knew a lot about you guys, but this has been quite an eye opener.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, I hope that's been the case. I must admit I wasn't feeling 100% today, so I was a little bit worried that I was going to be off and not my usual knowledgeable and bubbly self. But hopefully I've kind of got past that and been able to give you a bit of a nice snapshot of who we are and what we do and how much we love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's definitely come across. I mean, it's such... I mean, I speak for someone that's it's been mainly into the Doctor Who stuff. But I mean, just that alone has been a great range. But it's been eye opening just to see kind of how kind of wide a range of things you're now doing. And we'll definitely. I was just going to say we'll definitely kind of get you back on again, kind of sometime soon to kind of let's just see where that's going. Because it's something we've kind of followed with interest for a number of years now.
Excellent. No, I'd appreciate that, Derek. And I noticed we've done it here, but you would think that after however long this is of lockdown, that we'd all be really good at not sort of pausing at the wrong time or talking over one another. I apologise that I have not improved on that in any way, shape, or form, despite it becoming the status quo.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does. I think that's probably the one thing everyone's going to be excited about, is just be able to kind of get out and just not hear the word Zoom again for a while.
Yeah, well, and particularly the phrase "you're on mute." That seems to be the one. It's not hearing that. I have a feeling there will come a point where you're in person with people and you wish you could turn on, or mute someone again. But everything has its pros and cons.
Yeah, real life meetings are definitely going to be a strange experience once we get to the end of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
no, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, and let's say we'll hopefully get you on again. But we're hopefully going to be doing a few more kind of face-to-faces over the next couple of weeks on the channel, and after that, I think we're likely to be doing some of the things we'll kind of get you back on. But we'll kind of wrap up there tonight, and I think I have to mandatory kind of say happy times and happy places. Is kind of if not, Eddie will seek me out and kind of beat me up. This is a catchphrase for some strange reason. So thanks again for being on, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. And just to make him happy, happy times and happy places. I guess someone else said it.